Out in the American Southwest, neon glass flickers over cracked pavement. You can drive these stretches, photograph rusted signs, and sleep in old motels. But if you look at a current federal map, this road is gone. U.S. Route 66 was officially decommissioned in 1985, fractured into state highways and local roads, or buried entirely under the interstate system. The highway was actually born out of a similar kind of fragmentation. In 1926, engineers didn't pave a new superhighway across the continent. They stitched together a network of dirt paths and disconnected local roads to create a single 2,400-mile line from Chicago to Los Angeles. The goal was purely industrial: connect isolated farms to regional markets and move rural populations toward the factories booming in the cities. Yet the moment the line was drawn, a private group called the U.S. Highway 66 Association began marketing it as the Main Street of America. They organized cross-country foot races and advertisements, treating a freight corridor as a destination before the first mile was even paved. It raises a specific question: how did a utilitarian, fractured strip of asphalt become a global shorthand for the 20th century United States? The image of the road as a leisure destination took decades to earn. In the 1930s, drought across the Great Plains triggered a mass migration list. For these travelers, the highway was a route of survival, not a scenic tour. Families abandoned failed farms with nothing but what they could carry, heading onto the asphalt in search of work. To them, Route 66 was a landscape of exhaustion. While later history would focus on the cars, many of these migrants crossed the country on foot, dragging primitive carts hundreds of miles through the desert heat. By the 1940s, the highway's role shifted again. As the United States entered World War II, the road transformed from a trail of refugees into a massive industrial conveyor belt for the military. The pavement was taken over by thousands of heavy military transports, moving troops and munitions to the Pacific, alongside waves of defense workers migrating to new aircraft plants in California. For its first 30 years, the road was defined by national trauma and logistics. It was a place where people worked and struggled, directly contradicting the vacation land myth that would soon replace it. The post-war boom rewritten the road's history. As car ownership spiked in the 1950s, Route 66 became a neon-lit artery for the new American vacation, filled with motels, diners, and roadside attractions. Pop culture manufactured a new history for the road. When Nat King Cole recorded "Debt Your Kicks" on Route 66, he wasn't just singing about travel. He was broadcasting a specific vision of a driver moving west with no obligations but the next stop. But that vision had rigid boundaries. For Black motorists, the open road ran through hundreds of dangerous sundown towns. Communities where being caught after dark carried the threat of violence or arrest. To survive the journey, Black travelers relied on an annual guide published by Victor Green, known as the Negro Motorist Green Book. It listed the specific motels and gas stations that would safely serve Black customers. The warning on the cover was literal: carry your Green Book with you, you may need it. This era of roadside culture was short-lived. By 1956, the federal government began building the Interstate Highway System, prioritizing high-speed, limited-access travel over local connectivity. These new freeways were built on a scale that dwarfed the old road. They were designed to bypass the towns and business districts of Route 66 entirely, instantly cutting off their economic lifelines. The interstate system was indifferent to local success. It bypassed and bankrupted these towns based on the new, straighter path of the freeway, regardless of who lived there. Today, the route is a landscape of remnants. Restored neon signs now sit directly alongside historical ruins. The 1985 decommissioning left physical scars. You can still see how deeply the bypasses hollowed out rural economies, in the empty pump islands and abandoned stations of the high desert. But modern preservation projects are changing the road's meaning. Ahead of the 2026 centennial, historians are mapping lost Green Book sites and restoring marginalized histories, moving the focus away from pure nostalgia. When the highway lost its status as a primary thoroughfare, it stopped being a tool for getting from one place to another. That obsolescence is what transformed it into a destination, a place where people now go specifically to find the artifacts of the pre-interstate era. The highway survives because its ruins force a confrontation between these two realities: the neon-lit vacation land on one side and the survival guides for Black travelers on the other. It is a physical, 2,400-mile record of how differently we've experienced the idea of the open road.